Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Conservative and not bitter indeed, my friends. Thank you for joining us, hour 2 of today's program. It is good to be here. Thank you for doing this alongside us, my friends. Got a lot I want to get to today. We went through a lot in the previous hour. I want to, this hour, specifically talk about Alex Thompson of Axios. He's out there basically saying that the media let the American people down or violated their trust for not reporting what was known about Joseph Robinette Bribery's mental condition, I suppose, his fitness for being commander-in-chief. This, of course, has drawn the ire of people who are in the media. In fact, I've got a soundbite or a little bit of a discussion here. Chuck Todd upset, in fact, dropping the F-bomb on Alex Thompson of Axios. I want to play this. I want to explain what's going on and talk about that this hour, because in addition to what we talked about in the first hour, which is that the Democrat Party is in disarray, it's a party of anger, it's a party without a leader, it's a party without a vision. These, by the way, are things that, yes, I'm saying, but they're also being echoed by people on the left. Bernie Sanders said the Democrats have no vision. The best they've got is Spartacus and Hakeem Jeffries sitting on the steps of the Capitol holding some sit-in protest. It's ridiculous. They praised Governor Pritzker for saying that he wants to make sure Republicans have no peace and that they are going to cause disruption to whatever it is Trump's trying to do. They're calling for impeachment. We didn't even talk about that. There's a congressman who's going to try to introduce impeachment, articles of impeachment against Trump, which is not surprising. This is going to happen. This won't be the last time that this happens, but they're in disarray. But in addition to that, there's real problems. There's problems that have caused all of that. And those problems happen to be the goals and mission and leadership of the Democratic Party, what the people in this country want and how far the Democrats have strayed from that. But there's also deception and things that they've violated the trust of the American voter, the American taxpayer. And I want to talk about that specifically as it pertains to Axios and the coverage of Joseph Biden during his term in office, how they hid from us his true condition. Friends, before we get rocking and rolling with that, I know as a listener of this program, you care about this country, you care about the direction that we're going, you worry about a lot of things, the leadership, the laws, the liberty that has been infringed upon, the prosperity that has been attacked, that has been basically siphoned off by the lovers of big government. You care about these ideas. You know that those things matter. But ideas and coming to an understanding of the ideas and having the right beliefs as far as what's best for this country, what's best for prosperity, what's best for freedom and liberty, those things are certainly important. But we have to do something with it. That's why we are creating the Inner Circle. It's a membership program here at the Todd Huff Show where we do things behind the scenes with members, where we're actually helping folks become better and not bitter. We're having some bonus content and actually try to look to put feet and hands to the ideas here that we stand behind and articulate on a regular basis. You can become a lifetime member of the Inner Circle. As a founding member, it's only $99. You'll be a lifetime member. That's forever. As long as you're here and the program is, we're running the program, that's your lifetime member. There will be other ways to join, but I'm looking for the leaders, the movers and shakers to help form this program. For more information or to join, this is going to be ending soon, my friends. Simply visit toddhuffshow.com/join. Again, that's toddhuffshow.com/join. toddhuffshow.com/join for more information or to become a member, lifetime member of the Inner Circle. All right, let's get to this this story here. I've had this in the stack for a bit. This is, I'm looking here, this is all over the place, but the story from the New York Post. Reporter rips Biden administration, media at White House Correspondents' Dinner over, quote, cover-up of ex-president's mental decline, written by Ryan King. So they had the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is less and less relevant all the time. But occasionally there's something that comes from this that we want to talk about here on this particular program. And so that's what I want to do today. So here we go. I'm going to read from this article. Beltway reporters were forced to reckon with their coverage of Joe Biden's mental decline at the White House Correspondents' Dinner after honoring a maverick reporter who worked to expose the ex-president's problems despite pushback. Star Axios reporter Alex Thompson tore into the Biden administration and fellow journalist after receiving the Aldo Beckman Award for Overall Excellence Saturday for his coverage of Biden's age and acuity at a time when other media outlets were turning a blind eye. So, we all remember this. In fact, I've talked about this for a long time. I remember talking about Biden's condition in 2020. And I've shared this with you. I won't go into it in detail because we've just talked about some of this recently. But the truth is, the Democrat Party in 2020, they were in disarray then as well. They thought Bernie Sanders, who's only a Democrat every 4 years when he can run for president, otherwise he's an independent. Yes, he caucuses with the Democrats, but he's not a Democrat until it's time to become a presidential nominee. But the party did not want him. The party power brokers. And make no mistake, there are people that run this party who have who make decisions on behalf of everybody else. And when they looked at the field of candidates in 2020, this is not 2024, by the way, this is back to 2020. They looked at the candidates and they saw themselves heading for a contested convention. They could see that there were enough votes going to enough of the candidates that no one would actually win half of the delegates, which meant there was going to have to be a contested or a brokered convention, which basically just means the people who are sent to the convention as delegates were going to have to negotiate a plan to make a nomination of who their candidate would be. And of course, this would undermine things about saving our democracy when you have a group of people, an oligarchy, if you will, in the Democrat Party determining for the people who their candidate's going to be. There would be people this would be a highly emotional and volatile sort of climate. It could have lasted a long time, and it could have caused additional damage to the party's candidate. And so the party's power brokers, they got on the phone, they met together, whatever, and they decided our best chance to beat Trump in 2020 is this guy, Joseph Robinette Bribery. Let's get him as the nominee. Let's make promises to the others like Pete Buttigieg, Pocahontas. Yes, I can say that because I'm the official spokesperson as a direct descendant of Pocahontas, proven by genealogy, 13th great-grandson. So they went to these folks. They asked them to step out. They eventually did. Pocahontas was one of the last to do it, but Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, you know the routine. And then they basically endorsed Biden. Biden won the nomination. They avoided a contested convention. They avoided all of that, where people were, the nominee would have been unclear heading into the convention. They avoided that drama. Biden was their nominee. I'm telling you right now, I've said this before, I stand by this. The people that made the decision knew he was in serious mental decline, that he was not cognitive in 2020. I have zero doubt about this. No doubt whatsoever. And they didn't care. They did not care. They said he was our guy anyway. We all, of course, know what happened after that. Biden won the election, was sworn in January of 2021. We had January 6th. We had all this stuff happening, right? But they knew that Biden was not well. Joseph Robinette bribery was not the same man from a cognitive perspective that he was in when he ran for president previously, which back in 2008, he was a candidate as well. Back then, he was just saying offensive things through gaffes or slips of the tongue. Not even slips of the tongue. He's the guy, by the way, who said, I kid you not, you can look this up. This is not in the stack of stuff. I just remember this because I have laughed about this a lot in my life, maybe more than I should. He said, I kid you not, this is pretty close to verbatim, but it's not a direct quote. He said, you can't go to a 7-Eleven without a slight Indian accent. That's what he said. And he said, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Basically, to go in there, you got to be someone from India with the accent. That's what he said. He told Stand Up Chuck, the guy in the wheelchair. I mean, that's back when he was just having slips of the tongue and just doing gaffes. And sometimes they were pretty embarrassing. But we were dealing with something much greater than that in 2020. And they knew about this. They, the people closest to him, knew about this. And if you pay attention, which I know you do as a listener of this program, you pay attention to politics. You don't look at this just on a superficial level. You think about these things. And you know that anytime the left is caught with their hand in the cookie jar, they don't just deny it. So let's say, for example, I'm just off the cuff here. Let's say that, case in point, the 2020 election. Whenever you say to someone on the left, hey, there were some real election abnormalities, some concerns that we have. You know, you had executive decisions being made by secretaries of state or governors in 2020 pertaining to when ballots would be received, how long those ballots would be counted because of COVID and all these other factors and so forth that were outside of the law. They didn't have the power to do this. They made changes illegally. This was the job of the state legislatures to set the rules for how these elections would be managed and so forth. And instead of providing evidence to a particular allegation or problem, what they do is they say, no, this was the most secure election ever. So when you say, look, there were some problems, instead of saying, no, there weren't, give me examples and I'll explain to you how that really wasn't a deal. They don't do that. When you say there were problems, they say, this is the most secure election in American history. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, that suffices for a lot of people. Well, I guess what are you supposed to say to that? Well, you're supposed to say to that, what are you talking about, dude? Give me one example, because I've got 57 here that I'd like to ask you about. And see, many people don't do that. But they've learned that it's a lot easier. If you're going to lie, go all out. If you're going to lie about something, just make it as bombastic as possible, because a little lie is actually can be more problematic because you're closer to agreeing. A little lie means I'm just going to step a little bit away from the truth, which is what my opponent is arguing for. I'm going to be close to them, but I'm going to be on the side of not telling the truth on the matter. If I'm already going to make the decision, I'm not saying me personally, I'm telling you how they think. Instead of thinking, hey, we're just going to be a little bit on the side of the lie. It's a lie if it's a little or a big one. Just go all out. Go all out. That's the left philosophy. That's the Democrat Party's philosophy. And this is how they operate. This is how they function. So instead of acting as though they have to give examples to genuine questions about people concerned about the mental fitness of the commander-in-chief, they come out and they say, you remember this. You remember all this. I've talked about it. You remember this at the time. Karine Jean-Pierre will say, listen, I go in there to meet with Joe Biden. That guy, he's like a rapid-fire supercomputer in there. I'm afraid to go in there to talk to the guy. You have people in the administration acting like this guy is just hitting it on all cylinders. You had other Congress members. I just played a clip the other day of Pocahontas out there saying that she was, she was surprised. She never saw any signs of Joe Biden's decline. They double and triple and quadruple down on this, but the facts remain that they all knew. Hear me say this. This was not a surprise to anybody. They all knew. Whatever we know today, they knew 3, 4, 5 years ago. They all knew. And so they hid the truth from you. From a group of people who tell you that they are on the path to defending our democracy, they are really on a path of trying to gaslight you, to lie to you, to manipulate you, to deceive you. This is who they are. It's what they do each and every day. Breath in, breath out. This is how they function. And so that's how that this was portrayed. Now that Biden's out of office, now that the Democrats are going through the 5 stages of grief, now they're starting to come to grips with this. And so now I can't speak about this reporter. You know how I say that journalism is, there's some exceptions to the rule, and there's actually some journalists out there. Most of them are not journalists. Most of these folks are not journalists. I can't speak specifically to this individual, Alex Thompson. But he was actually at the time trying to at least ask questions about Biden's age and cognitive abilities, acuity, as this says here at the New York Post article, or in the New York Post article. Thompson said this: President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. I don't know why anybody would need a reminder of that. This is what's fascinating to someone like me. Why do we need reminding that people are capable of deception? That any White House is capable of deception? People, what level of head in the sand does one need to be in for them not to understand that people are capable of deception, and that the real way to ensure that we're not deceived is to make sure that we are reporting, that we're asking questions about things that come up that seem to be relevant. Hey, we noticed President Biden face planted on the debate stage, or not the debate stage, the speaking stage at the United States Air Force Academy. We noticed he can't walk up a flight of stairs. We noticed he fell off of a stationary bicycle, not a stationary bike, a bicycle he was riding that he was basically stopping, putting his feet down. He falls over. At some point, isn't there a question in there that says, hey, we've noticed this guy falls all the time. We noticed this guy can't complete sentences. We know that they've put a lid on Biden for his day to end at 2 p.m. Starting to wonder, is there something to this? What's going on? What happened to the curiosity of journalists? Are they really that naive as to think that they wouldn't be deceived, that the Biden administration is not capable of deception? What must one think about the nature of humanity to think that anybody is above the possibility of being deceptive? This is part of what it means to be a human being. This is part of the condition of mankind, that certainly if our interests are at risk, people have the capacity to be deceptive. And if there's negative news about the president that's floating around, or the possibility of negative news, then why wouldn't there be a possibility of deception? I can't understand why people don't understand this. But going back to his comments, but being truth tellers, this is the journalist here that we're talking about at Axios, Alex Thompson, talking about the Biden administration and how the media it was covered up. It was covered up. He says, but being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of the story. Now, how does a guy... Folks, I have opinions. I stay informed. I've got a microphone, right? I mean, that's what I do. How does a guy... And I'm not the only one. There's other people. But I'm just, for comparative purposes, how does a guy with a microphone and a radio show podcast, who's not hanging around the politicians in D.C., who's not around Biden personally by choice, how does it become so obvious to me? And none of these journalists even were aware of this. I mean, you're either absolutely unqualified for your job, you're just, candidly, I say this as nicely as possible, idiots, or you are part of the cover-up. I mean, which is it? There's really no other way. It was obvious to all of us. You can go back to the archives of this program. I mean, I was saying some of these things 5 years ago, and you were thinking them too. It's not about me. I'm saying, I'm comparing what I know, which is my thinking, to what this dude is saying, saying that journalists bear some responsibility for the faith in media being at such lows. You bear the brunt of it. You are the reason. You are the reason. I didn't read the whole quote here. Let me read the whole quote and give you the full context. He says, but being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story. I think that's where I stopped. And some people trust us less because of it. First of all, we all should trust you less because of it. What are you doing? Is it ineptitude or is it intentional collusion? There's a word for you. Collusion. Trump colluded, they say, with Russia in 2016 to trick Hillary voters into voting for him. That's what we were told using social media ads. I'll tell you what's a lot closer to real collusion is the Biden administration colluding with journalists and other people in politics to hide the real cognitive state of President Joseph Robinette bribery. What does this guy mean that they bear some of the responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows? You are the reason that people don't believe you. Now, I'm going to have to stop here. I'm getting to the end of this first segment. So I will give him his kudos, applause here for standing up on this and making it known. However, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he's got a book coming out. I think with Jake Tapper. Maybe I've got this wrong. Yeah, here it is. Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again, Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. So he's got a book out there to peddle, a book to sell. So, I mean, I can't applaud the guy too much. It looks like a political opportunist, or at least a entrepreneurial opportunist here. Why didn't you tell us what was in this book before? That's my question. Anyway, I've got to take a break, my friends. More to say on this on the other side of the timeout. Sit tight. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Now, there's a couple ways that the left could frame this that I will get to here in a moment. Before I do that, though, I want to talk to the sales people out there, the sales managers, the sales people. I know some of you are driving and listening to this program as you are out and about in the selling world. You are doing a good thing. You're helping customers find a product to meet their needs. You're helping your company, the people that work there, to have jobs, and you're getting compensated along the way, just as it should be, my friends. But are you where you want to be? Could you be doing better? Well, if you can be, and I would suggest that we all probably could be, then let me introduce you to Matt Easton and Easton University. Matt has developed a training system that I think is as good as anything I have ever seen. They've got training materials that come in the form of videos. It's very in detail. It's good stuff. And again, I go back to the days of learning how to become a young salesperson under the instruction of the late, great Zig Ziglar. By the way, if you ever listen to this program and you hear Chris Dunham fill in for me, Chris was at one point the protege of Zig Ziglar. I did not know him then. I've only met him in recent years. I've probably known him for 15 plus years, I'm guessing now, but not when he was with Zig. But Zig had some great stuff. Matt has some great stuff too. That is a great way to train yourself, your sales team, if you're a sales manager, your company, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner. This stuff is good. This stuff is really good. And it's not just a training system. Matt has coaching calls. Coaching calls where he'll jump on with students each and every week, twice a week, in fact, answering questions, going through things. It's really good stuff. Check it out. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton is where you go. And if you sign up through that link, my friends, you will get a welcome call from Matt himself. He'll help you identify where you are, the parts of the process that you need to focus on first, and just welcome you and help you hit the ground running. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton. That's EASTON. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton. So we have a book being written by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. I think, it's going to be released. It's going to be released May 20th. So what a perfect opportunity. So the cynic in me says, well, that's nice of you to say all these things now, Mr. Thompson. You've written a book. Where were these things before? Now they would say, well, he was reporting. He was asking some of these questions before. Okay. I can accept a little bit of this, but at some point the timing works out way too perfectly to use that platform, the correspondence dinner, and then 3 weeks later have a book come out about the very topic that you could have been sounding the alarm much. I don't know how much Mr. Thompson was saying, but I am certain that people like me were saying a whole lot more, and we had a whole lot less direct, actually in my case, no direct sourced information other than just observing what I'm seeing with my eyes and hearing with my ears. Why did someone like me, a talk show host, know this and they didn't? Just like why did someone like me know that the Hunter Biden laptop was not the product of Russian misinformation, and 51 of our smartest and intelligence officials thought that it was in 2020. It's all nonsense. It is a game of political theater. It is not real. If you want to know what's real, that's why you tune in here. At least it's what I think is real. It's not me trying to sell something like a narrative that Biden is healthy when he's truly not. These folks hid this from you. They absolutely 100% hid it from us. And if they didn't, they should all resign today because they're pitiful journalists. Now, all of that being said, I want to go now to a clip I've got. Got to get the bleep button ready. Chuck Todd. Now, I'm going to tell you, my father-in-law, his name was Chuck. My name's Todd. I have a hard time. I really want to root for a guy. I really want to like a guy who has the name Chuck Todd, but I can't. This guy is a clown. This guy is a sophist. This guy is out there defending the media. He's saying that the Democrat Party is to blame for this. Now, I'm not saying the Democrats are not to blame. Make sure I've got this queued up correctly. I'm not saying the Democrat Party has bears none of this burden or responsibility. They absolutely do. First and foremost, but the whole point of the media is to hold truth to power, right? Do you expect the Democrat Party just to come out and say, listen, the guy we got in the White House, he just doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on. We're going to have to replace him. We may not even field a candidate in the 2020 election. Is that what they really thought was going to happen here? As my computer has seemed to have completely seized and at least this clip is locked up. Here we go. Is that what they want us to believe? Are we supposed to believe that they're just going to come out and honestly tell us what's going on? If that's the case, why do we need a media? Right? The founders, they said if men were angels, government would not be necessary. Was that Jefferson? If men were angels, government would not be necessary. If administrations were truly transparent and honest with the American people, would the media be necessary? Now, you know what? We made a mistake. Let us get right to it with the American people. We failed here. Can you imagine Biden coming out in 2023, whenever inflation was at an all-time high for the past 40 years or whatever it was, and say, listen, we screwed up here. This one's on me. It's something that, I bear responsibility for. Hold me accountable. Did we expect that? What the world is going on here? Yes, the Democrat Party is responsible for hiding it from us, but the media is responsible, I would say, because they knew, and they hid it from us because they preferred Joseph Robinette Bribery be president over Donald J. Trump. They preferred that. They knew any change in the ticket in the last minute would cause problems, and it did. So, listen, I'm there to blame, but the media, the lack of curiosity, the lack of skill to see what was obvious to a guy, what am I, 800 miles away from Washington, D.C.? Why couldn't you find it when you're 8 feet away from the president? That's my question. It's because you didn't want to. So, that being said, let's get here to Chuck Todd. He's got some words to say about this. He's upset by this. He's upset that Alex Thompson blames the media. Chuck Todd doesn't want any responsibility whatsoever.
And then there's the other thing that I have a real sort of problem with is this rewriting of history about whether the traditional media, whose fault is it that Joe Biden was politically stupid?
Stop everything. That's not the problem. Nice try to talk your way past this, Chuck Todd. Joe Biden wasn't politically stupid. The Democrat Party, with the help of people like you, Chuck Todd, you are the folks who helped allow this nonsense to happen. It wasn't political stupidity. It was political dishonesty. It was political deception. They knew they just had to get past Election Day. If they could get past Election Day, they didn't have to worry about elections anymore. They could do whatever they needed. Biden could resign. They could keep him in the position of running the government while the people behind the scenes were making the decision, the people who were making the decision about what the auto pen was going to sign. Trump says that's not over as well. That's in the news as well. What are you talking? It wasn't just Biden being stupid. Oh, man, I'm a little bit less fit for office than I should be. Daggone it, I shouldn't have run for office. No, nice try, Chuck. That ain't the way that this worked at all. That is completely deceptive or completely out of touch with what was going on. This guy had to be handled with care. This guy had no idea where he was. This guy had to have X's placed on the spots where he was supposed to stand. This guy would wander off of stages with world leaders around. He would just wander around and fumble and talk in fragmented sentences. Forget where he was, what he was saying. Stop the nonsense. Stop it. This is beyond deceptive, Chuck. You've been caught. People like you have been caught defending this president, the former president. And you should stand up and face the consequences of your actions or the lack of your actions. I'll play a little bit more of this, and I'm up against a break here, but I just want to play this.
Whose fault was it that a whole bunch of people around Joe Biden were
yours? How about
were
that?
Numb to the fact that their candidate was even more unqualified in the public side than Donald Trump? This is not a media failure. This is a failure of the Democratic Party.
It's a failure of the media.
And I just sort of the virtue signaling that some people have done to try to say
but your
that the media missed this story. They didn't miss this story.
What are you talking about?
David Ignatius wrote, I just refuse to accept this stupid premise because it's a right-wing manufactured right-wing premise.
Stupid. Right-wing premise. What a self-righteous, idiotic thing to say. I can't take this stuff anymore. This guy lives in a bubble that's inside of a bubble that is inside of the DC bubble. This guy is completely beyond hope here. To go to this level of denial. What do you mean the media didn't miss the story? How many times does the president have to fall down, forget what he's talking about, forget what the Declaration of Independence is called? How many times does this have to happen for you to have the slightest bit of curiosity about his fitness to run the country? Chuck, give me a break. You look like a fool saying these things. I've got to take a timeout. Back here in just a minute. Now, folks, I've done this now for 10 years, and I've had the opportunity to talk about a lot of different things on this program. I don't want to say seen it all, because sometimes I'm still amazed at some of the things that are said and done. But I have to tell you, as I stopped during the break and was thinking about this is perhaps this commentary, Chuck Todd, the links to which he goes to defend the media for not reporting on... By the way, he doesn't even admit that it's Biden's lack of cognition or mental ability or fitness or any of that. It's Biden's stupidity. What is that supposed to mean? Biden is not even in a position to make a judgment on anything. We shouldn't be judging Biden for making a decision to stay in the race or not in the race, given his mental fitness. Biden didn't know what was going on. Now, maybe you want to bring Jill into this, Dr. Jill. Forgive me for that. Maybe that's what you want to do, and that would be understandable, I suppose. She's the one that was at least making decisions that Biden himself could not have been making. But to pretend like the media is completely just hands washed of this is crazy talk to me. Now, not to me, it's crazy talk. The self-righteousness of this guy. I am blown away by this. The lack of, just complete lack of personal awareness. Defending the media for not reporting on this. It's awfully rich, my friends. Look, we've got a lot of us know this, and we're fighting this battle on multiple fronts, and we need more people with sense to stand up and oppose this nonsense on a regular basis. And we got to bring new people into the fold, but we've also got to take care of the ones who are in the fold, the ones that are pushing in the right direction. And one way you can do that is take care of your heart health. Solty.com is a place where you can do that. Solty.com, SOLTEA. Promo code Todd's going to save you 50%, by the way, and get you free shipping. But this is a product that has been clinically proven to lower cholesterol. This is a product that is a great place to start with proactively taking care of your heart health and to do as a first step versus the first step being go to the doctor. Not against that. Don't misunderstand me. Have cholesterol medication, all of that. What if this could help avoid some of that? I'm not a doctor in saying that it can, but it lowers cholesterol. It's good for your heart. It's been scientifically proven. It's safe. And I think it might be able to help you as well. I take it. Check it out. Solty.com, SOLTEA. Promo code Todd. Get you 50% off and free shipping on your first 3-month supply. Solty.com, SOLTEA. Promo code Todd. I don't even know what to do. I'll play a little bit more of this. A little bit, just to give you a flavor.
In order to stain the media. The media's got plenty of things to attack them for.
Yeah, and this is
and there
another
are
one.
MSNBC and CNN and pundits that absolutely carried water for Joe Biden, but they're not journalists. They're former strategists that carried water for Joe Biden.
That's half the media, Chuck. You're acting this. Listen, it's like nailing. We've backed these folks into a corner. They've gotten nowhere to go, but now they're acting like Jell-O. Instead of being pegged to the wall and have to be held accountable for what they've done, they're trying to wiggle and jiggle their way out of this. He's on, by the way, with Chris Cillizza, who's another lunatic in the media. Now Chuck's saying, well, listen, some of these folks are commentators. They're opinion people. They're not journalists. Well, Chuck, how many journalists are there? How many journalists are actually out there? How many journalists keep from telling us what they think about a political issue? How many journalists report on the facts of the case? How many journalists try not to persuade for their viewpoint to be the desired outcome or the desired, what do you want to say, just consequence or just what the reader, the conclusion. If you don't want to be called an opinionist, if you want to be called a journalist, I shouldn't know who you voted for. And that's the thing. Journalists have voted for Biden and the Democrats in unbelievably high numbers. It's just like the folks at NPR over there pretending to be journalists. What was it? We found this out during the hearing where NPR is up there talking before a House committee meeting, denying a bunch of stuff, whatever they're doing, right? Pretending, going through this game and the shenanigans. But they admitted they had 87 people on their editorial board, and they were all Democrats. 87. You know the statistical likelihood that that's the case? That you have 87 people, the next 87 people who you want to appoint to be members of your editorial board, the next 87 by chance are all Democrats? You got to be kidding me. There's something else at play here. It's the intentionality of the media organization. It's the games that they play. It's the fact that people who find themselves in media are almost always Democrats, or at least the people that they give media credentials to. There are conservative media outlets out there, but they demonize these folks, right? They try to make them sound like they're second-class journalists, when in reality, there are no journalists. Chuck Todd's right on that. He's simply not saying that there's no journalists, which is what I'm basically saying. There's a very, very few. But he's playing games. They are responsible. The media is responsible for a lack of curiosity. Yes, Biden and his team are first and foremost responsible, the Democratic Party. I've got no problem with that. But you hid this. You had no curiosity. You were happy with the American people not knowing. That, my friends, is indisputable. I got to go. SDG.